Oh, hello there. Yes, well, 'tis God's day, isn't it? 'Tis, yes. Shame we stopped using 'tis. I used to like 'tis was. Oh, that was on Saturday, wasn't it? Well, maybe it was a Jewish thing. Anyway, yes, today we're going to talk lots about God and blasphemy and religion and its associated political world, which is becoming more and more intermeshed. Yes, you may notice that Nigel Farage has started banging on about abortion because that's what his American moneyed backers are after. Of course, I always love it seeing a bloke going on about abortion. Not such a good look, Nige, but you don't understand that because, hey, you're a bloke. Anyway, yes, today my eye was drawn, well, yesterday in fact, to the gorgeous and pouting Calvin Robinson, yes, right-hand man to God, yes, he's sort of shuffled Jesus out the way there, but he's now safely ensconced in his American parish, so he's picked up some American apparel for his American podcast, and we've got the US flag and his church, and a bit of iconography there of I don't know, I think that's him actually, maybe it's a portrait. Anyway, yes, it's made a bit of a change from the stuff he used to do in the UK, which had a more of a naff flavour to it, you know, sort of rubbishy flags, and there's the Queen as she was when she was about 27, and that god-awful thinks that he thinks it's a Crusader helmet, and it just isn't. It's a nasty plastic reproduction that no one should go anywhere near. But that's another thing. Anyway, lots of people complain bitterly about the way that we shouldn't have anti-blasphemy laws in the UK. And Calvin has done the devilish thing of saying that there's no such thing as Judeo-Christian values. And I'm afraid I do have to agree with him. I know he's doing it because it will generate a lot of traffic. For a man of God, he seems to have an awful lot of secular concerns, but that's just me being, rude. Anyway, yes, because there isn't such a thing as Judeo-Christian culture, all right? It's a post-war American invention from their evangelical wing, which does rather like the concept of the rapture after a convenient nuclear war where all the sinners like me, of course, will die because I won't be lifted to heaven. I can't see any faults in that particular plot, but there we are. But yes, blasphemy, and lots of the right wing will complain bitterly about blasphemy, but what they really mean is they want the right to have a go at the Islamists, or basically anyone that's Muslim. They just don't like brown people, so it's a convenient shorthand for that. It's a bit like the American phrase urban. You see, it's never applied to white teenagers listening to heavy metal, is it? No. Yes, so anyway, this backdoor blasphemy law, which we mustn't have. But at the same time, of course, we do have in the British press and the British media generally, because the new media like GB News, et al, are very heavily into this idea that certain religions are better than other religions, and certain thoughts are better than other thoughts, and certain people shouldn't be criticised, whereas other people should be. Which leads us neatly, of course, to the Daily Telegraph, with anti-Semitism at the BBC now normal, in inverted commas, inevitably after October 7th. Whistleblower claims. I presume they mean October the 7th last year, not this year, because I don't forget, it's been over a year now. Gosh, yes, there must be a brick standing somewhere in Gaza which needs to be bulldozed. Or indeed, maybe not, because I would imagine the smell in the air isn't great. But that's just me again, being a bit rude, potentially. Yes, so apparently lots and lots of staff at the BBC are saying things about Israel. Now, there is a problem with that, because of course, I'm afraid the state of Israel isn't Jewish people. Now, you may be a Jewish person in this country who has very close identity with the Jewish state. Okay, that's your prerogative, in very much the same way as lots of Muslims in this country might well have a close identity with, for example, the Pakistani cricket club. The difference between the two, perhaps, is that Pakistani cricket club aren't bombing people at the moment in northern Lebanon and elsewhere. Subtly different, but that's, again, just me being a little bit picky. Yes. But of course what this is all about, apart from having a go at the BBC, of course, which really shouldn't exist because it doesn't allow the free market to operate, but What this is all about, of course, yes, is about that basic form of racism whereby we can decide who is right and proper. And who's right and proper is, well, basically people that we're conveniently now agreeing with. Yes, I mean, the IHRA definition basically states, if you want to accept that, which lots of us don't, after all, for very good reason, that basically criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. No, it isn't. Okay, I reserve the right to criticise any state if it basically gets accused of genocide. Yeah, I'll criticise the Russians for their appalling dealings with their, well, in a lot of ways, former Soviet republics. Yeah, I'm allowed to do that. It doesn't mean I hate Russian people, does it? I mean, I might do, but they aren't necessarily intrinsically tied. But of course we will get reams and reams and reams of this stuff now, because allegedly those Jewish people are now very, very closely aligned with us, whatever that means. Certainly not with me, because I don't believe in God. And certainly the vast majority of Jewish people I've met in the UK tend to be fairly liberal and actually very, very, very atheistic. Their religion is a form of cultural identity, nothing more. They certainly don't believe in a big bearded bloke who, is kind of keen on the stuff that Moses had to say to people. Doesn't really happen. But we are moving in that direction. And, I know I'm linking something that isn't necessarily particularly linked to it, but the revelation that Kemi Badenoch decided to block some Irish rappers because she just didn't like what they had to say, I think is endemic of a lot of these kind of things, yeah? People like me and lots of other people out there have to sort of think into the future about whether or not what we have to say will be considered effectively sedition. We used to have lots of sedition laws in this country. It's one of the main reasons that the Chartists used to get shot, sabred, and hung, drawn and quartered or thrown into jails, or otherwise, about, 200 years ago. And we are basically heading back to that kind of place whereby you have to hold the right opinions. But the problem perhaps for the Jewish community in this country is they will never be properly accepted as proper, in the same way that lots of Irish people will never be accepted as proper, because both of those groups of people didn't used to be white British at all. They were considered somewhat inferior foreign aliens, in much the same way as other people are. And the problem with labelling people as one thing is, of course, that always involves a nasty mission creep or slippery slope, as we've been hearing a lot of this week, because those people that don't like others, a bit like Nigel Farage maybe, will always just find a new target. They don't really care, do they? So long as it's not them. And the trick, I guess, is to make sure that it is them, that we, as a mass of people, just say, no. Anyway, do have a lovely Sunday, if you can.